Welcome to this explainer. Imagine darkness. Utter, absolute darkness. I'm talking no streetlights, no glowing screens, just the suffocating black of an ancient forest at midnight. And from that pitch black comes a whisper. A voice you know, a voice you deeply trust. And it's calling your name. Today, we're diving into a chilling legend passed down through generations in Africa, the Whispering Woods of Adein. It starts out feeling like a terrifying campfire tale. But trust me, it unravels into something incredibly profound about human nature. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever heard your name called in the dark? And I don't mean by a friend standing right next to you, but a voice emerging from the shadows themselves. A voice so perfectly familiar, it feels literally impossible to ignore. Well, long ago, way before modern roads and electricity chased away those deep shadows, there was a small village called Adein. It sat right at the edge of a vast, towering forest. During the day, the villagers relied on these woods for firewood, medicine, food, the whole shebang. But the second the sun went down, that relationship changed completely. The village lived by absolute and flexible golden rules. Do not answer, do not follow. Chief Obafemi, the village elder, drilled this into every single person's head from day one. When night falls, you lock your doors. And if the forest calls your name, you absolutely do not answer. Everyone knew the stories, you know? The forest listened, it remembered, and sometimes it spoke. Break these rules, step beyond the village boundaries after sunset, and you vanished. Poof, without a single trace. Section 1. The Pattern of Disappearances. Let's look at those very first victims who vanished into the trees. For the longest time, the village existed in this state of kind of fearful balance, but eventually people started vanishing, and the specific way they vanished, that's what truly terrified the elders. Our first known victim was a guy named Adein. He was a brave, fearless hunter, the exact kind of guy who'd literally laugh at ghost stories. But one night, arriving late to the village gates, he heard a gentle voice. It wasn't some scary monster, it was his late mother's voice, gently calling out, "Adein, Adein." Neighbors actually saw him walk perfectly calmly right into the trees. And the next morning, nothing. No body, no footprints, zero sign of a struggle. Just silence. And soon, others followed. And this brilliantly illustrates an ancient secret shared by the village storyteller Monique. She explained why the sacred forest turned into this place of punishment. You see, it wasn't always dark. First, there was an era of peace, where spiritual guardians maintained a healthy balance. But then, greedy outsiders arrived. They started cutting down secret trees and destroying shrines. This led to the withdrawal. The spirits were angry, and they essentially abandoned humanity. Finally, we reached the curse. The once sacred forest transformed into a place of strict judgment, punishing humanity for breaking that ancient balance. But years later, our unofficial detective for this story, a curious young boy named Tunde, noticed an undeniable pattern that all the adults had completely missed. He essentially ran his own investigation, and what he found was actually chilling. The victims weren't chosen at random. Tunde mapped out their emotional states right before they vanished. If someone had just lost a loved one, they heard a comforting, familiar voice. If they had suffered recent heartbreak, the forest promised a deep connection. If they were simply experiencing profound loneliness, it offered the illusion of companionship. The whispers weren't just randomly calling names, they were preying directly on people's emotional vulnerabilities. Section 2. Tunde's dangerous experiment. He needed to test this terrifying theory, taking us right to the edge of the woods on a moonless night. Imagine the sheer bravery it takes for a kid to test a deadly legend like this. He hid behind a large rock at the very edge of the woods. His trusted friends were watching from a safe distance, and Tunde just waited in the pitch black. The village slept, the crickets sang. And then, shortly after midnight, a whisper, barely audible at first. Tunde? It sounded exactly like his grandmother, and she had passed away 3 years earlier. The whisper came closer. It sounded so warm, patiently repeating his name over and over, all the way until dawn. The urge to just get up and follow her into the dark, it was overwhelming, almost totally irresistible. But Tunde remembered the warnings. He dug his heels in and didn't move. He stayed put until the sun finally rose and the whisper vanished. And that leads to this massive realization. The forest cannot force you. People choose to follow. Even though the urge felt impossible to fight, Tunde survived because he simply chose to stay. The victims had ultimately surrendered themselves to the woods. They walked in willingly because they desperately wanted to believe that voice was real. Section 3. The Tree of Memories. Armed with this knowledge, Tunde led a daylight expedition into the twisting heart of the forest. Tunde managed to convince a few brave villagers to join him, and they marched into the woods during broad daylight. But as they went deeper, the environment just got creepier. First, the birdsong totally drops off, complete silence. Then, the trees themselves start twisting into these unnatural shapes, the trunks literally resembling human faces in agony. Finally, they reach this clearing where a massive central tree completely blocks out the sun, its roots spreading everywhere like giant serpents. But the most terrifying detail? Hundreds of names spanning generations are carved right into the shimmering bark, the names of the missing villagers. It was like the forest was keeping a record. So the crucial point is this brilliant pivot in the legend. Tunde went back alone that night and actually heard hundreds of voices, echoes of memories radiating from that very tree. On one side, sure, we have the literal folklore interpretation, a supernatural threat where angry spirits are punishing humanity. But look at the other side. This is actually a profound psychological trap. The forest represents the echoes of our memories, preying on sorrow and isolation. The real monster wasn't a ghost at all. It was the unbearable weight of unresolved grief. Section 4. Breaking the Curse. Tunde brought this completely enlightened revelation back to Adein, and it changed their entire survival strategy. Let's move to and see how this builds into something amazing. The village stopped hiding in pure fear and started actually treating the root cause of the disappearances. They built a brand new defense system. Step 1. Educate the kids about the forest's history so they truly understand the danger. Step 2. Actively support grieving relatives. Instead of just locking their doors and ignoring the lonely, neighbors actually went out and checked on them. Step 3. Strengthen community bonds across the board. And you know what happened? The disappearances became rare, and then they stopped entirely. True connection completely eradicated the curse. Section 5. The legend's true meaning. This brings us to the profound, timeless lesson hidden within this ancient folklore. While this story comes from generations of fireside gatherings in ancient Africa, it acts as a universal lesson about mental health and human vulnerability. The monster in the woods, it's not a hungry beast. It is the unchecked manifestation of human grief, of temptation, and the immense danger of facing your pain in absolute isolation. The real danger wasn't lurking outside in the dark, it was the vulnerability right inside of us. When people are isolated, pain creates an opening. Whether you take the story literally or just as a metaphor, the ultimate shield against the darkness is, for sure, community connection. The legend of Adein teaches us a crucial lesson. Do not blindly follow voices promising easy comfort, especially when we are hurting the most. Which leaves us with this final, powerful question to reflect on today. When the darkness calls your name, who is standing beside you? Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Until next time, keep your support systems close and stay curious.